You're listening to the Custom Built Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the unsexy side of home ownership. So, stay tuned. Everyone loves a new kitchen, but you know what doesn't get Pinterest clicks? A new water heater. I know, these are the boring things in our homes that we don't want to have to think about, but they are the items in our homes that are going to help us keep the longevity of our precious spaces. You know, we tend to spend our budgets on like the pretty upgrades. You know, when we have older homes that have been here for a while and we're in established neighborhoods that we love and the home just needs a little bit of TLC, the first thing we want to do is spend the money on upgrading the dated items. But what's behind those walls in those dated homes, right? Have the pipes been updated? These are things that you want to consider and think about when you're upgrading a home that might be aged. But also, even if it's a new home, knowing and understanding how long you have before you need to start really paying attention to these fixtures and maintenance areas that will keep your home running smoothly throughout its cycle. So by the end of this episode, you'll have a great idea on what you should be watching for, what you need to maintain for, and really what you should be focusing your budgets on when you're going to open up some walls, or at least having contingencies for those items. All right, so let's get to it. So there's an idea that a home is never finished, right? Everything has a lifespan. There are going to be moments where things are working great and functioning well. And then there's going to be that time where it's like everything is happening all at once. And why is everything dying at once? And that's because the lifespan of a lot of these big heavy hitters like HVAC, our roofs, even some of our plumbing like water heaters are going to be hitting the end of their life cycle. So if you have been in a home for its entirety, or even if you haven't and you bought it, everything might start coming to a head after a certain amount of years. And that's all normal stuff, but it's also not the stuff that we love to spend our money on because these are the hidden items but are so valuable in our home. You know, these are the things that help us stay comfortable when it's a hot day outside or it's cold outside, but we get this nice, warm, cozy space, right? The roof over our head keeps us dry. So we need to be aware of these things that are behind the walls or above us that we tend to stick our head in the sand for and kind of do a la 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 for. But we also need to make sure that we're caring for them as just like they're caring for us throughout our time in these homes. I know I just gave these things like personality and persona basically, right? But maybe if we think about it a little bit like that and there's some more gratitude to those things, it will make spending the money on it just a little less hurtful, right? So some examples, I think I already mentioned, like your roof's going to have about 20 to 30 years lifespan. Your HVAC is going to have about, I think about 15 to 20 years as well. Water heaters up to 30 years, especially those old ones are just like cranking them out, right? Washer and dryers tend to have a longevity to them too, especially when you're talking about older ones. They just kind of something about old manufacturing just really maintained well throughout their lifespan. So these are things you want to pay attention to while you're living in your home. You want to have routine maintenance to make sure that they're all working efficiently. You know, there's a lot of hidden costs if you ignore these items. You know, something like a hole in the roof that maybe you didn't realize, or like where your chimney and your roof meets and the flashing's up, you can be having slow leakage. And what that will look like over time is you don't know what's happening, and then your wood's rotting out from the top, and then until you start seeing it on your ceiling. And when it's at your ceiling and you're seeing that water damage over that amount of time, you're probably going to have a lot of wood rot and structural issues then. So these are bigger repairs that are going to cost you a lot more money that you didn't want to have to spend if we just maintained and took a look at what was happening above us. Now, I've seen a lot of different things through my restoration time, including wood rot from water, like slow water damage. And it's no joke, especially when you're talking about like exterior, like load-bearing walls, exterior walls. Like these are things that need to be repaired as far as the structure of your home. Pipes too, like if your plumbing is a little old. We were just looking at a house that we're bidding, and they need to update all of their plumbing from polyurethane pipes to PEX because they will not be able to get homeowners insurance with the old pipes. So they're buying a new home to them, it's not new, with polyurethane pipes, and they need to get them all updated in order to get homeowner insurance. I mean, talk about a heavy hitter right when you buy a house. Now, luckily, they want to update a few things so we can do this all at once, but that's a whole house that we need to repipe in order for them to get homeowners insurance. So just the quality of the pipes that were used at different times, you need to upgrade them sometimes. Same thing with electrical. Electrical is really, that's a scary thing to, be messing with. Like if you have old like knob and tube wiring, or even if it's a little bit updated, but it's like the cloth wiring, I mean, that is a fire waiting to happen. That is a ticking time bomb. We did a maintenance call at another house, and we were noticing that there was a sconce that was like overarching, and there were scorch marks on the drywall behind it. Now, that could have just turned into a massive fire in that home and completely devastated. Even if it was just like even if the fire was more of just like a smoke damage in a home is still really tragic. There's so many things that you lose out of that if you can't get the smell of smoke out of it. And you don't want to inhale that because as your health, it is unhealthy. So these are things that you want to catch before it turns into something as big as a disaster as a fire or major leaks in your home, or, a lot of things with electrical, you want to avoid those fires, right? Like, wouldn't wish that on anybody. So things that you can be looking for right now is checking your roof and your gutters. You want to always have some way of getting water off and away from your house. That same thing goes for like your foundations and how the drainage around them is happening. Example, for my own personal house, our drainage is really poor when it goes into our garage, our detached garage. So on a really heavy day, we'll have water coming in through our garage, and just, we had a really bad rainstorm a couple years ago that like put in at least a foot of rain water into my garage, where I had to empty everything out and get all the water out. It was crazy. And so luckily we know how to fix these things as where I'm at, but as a homeowner that might not know what to do in these situations, this is the type of things you want to look for. So proper drainage and your foundations, you want to make sure they're all dry. You don't want to have any mold or moisture happening underneath your home, because now you're talking about rotted joists and floorboards. Your floorboards start popping here in Charleston. I know I talk a lot about Charleston, but it's it's a hard climate to live in. We got termites, we got moisture, we got humidity. It's just pretty dank life here. And so I've seen a lot of things where like humidifiers are just not going to do enough under the houses, and you need to have really proper encapsulation under there, because then like I said, I've seen like floorboards popped up, they're warped, you're tripping on them. A lot of the times the joists can be okay, but if they're not, now you're fixing that and the structural side of it. So these are things, again, you want to be cognitive of when you're thinking about the longevity of your home. We talked about the plumbing and the electrical. Those are things that are safety issues and water damage. A lot of people have their water heaters or their HVACs like up in attic spaces. Now, if those drains don't catch all the water or they overflow, now you're talking water damage coming down. So always keeping an eye on the drains pans in your HVACs and your water heaters, and make sure that they're draining properly and that they're not overflowing into your home. HVAC is a good one because not only are you talking about cleaning your ductworks and having them maintained because of the air that's blowing through your home, you're breathing this in. So again, it's your health. To making sure it's energy efficient. You want to make sure that everything is blowing appropriately and that it's not overworking, because now you're talking about electrical bills, right? And your heating bills. And you want to make sure that these things are running efficiently to the best power, because if they're running too hard, now you're but you're putting at risk the longevity of its lifespan. Something that could have lasted, another 15 years might not have that lifespan because it had to overwork to keep your house cool or warm. Windows and insulation, you really want to pay attention to. If you have older windows, especially like single pane windows, you really do want to consider getting those replaced. Not only are you losing a lot of air through those, but sunlight coming in, you're not getting that UV protection like you would get on newer windows. Also insulation. If you don't have proper insulation, you're losing heating and air through that, and now your home is no longer efficient. Also, when you have windows that might have leaks, now we're talking anything with water damage, water coming in, any moisture in any capacity is bringing mold. Mold is one of those like hidden things that cause autoimmune diseases in people, right? So I don't know, just do your research with mold and how it affects the body. That is just one thing that you never want to have to deal with. And if you can just stay on top of the things in your home to help mitigate getting the chances of having mold in your home, I mean, your livelihood is at risk there. So I want to bring it back to the idea that when you're spending money on maintaining these things, you are not spending the money on like those pretty upgrades that you probably really want and need. I mean, if you can see behind me, if you're watching me, I have a door missing right behind me because I'm trying to update this house. But there are things in this home that needs to be updated, but I also can be maintaining the HVAC and other items. Now, luckily, before I bought this house, the electrical and the HVAC were updated recently. So for me, I don't have to put the money out right away. But I can tell you right now, I can do a better job of maintaining my own appliances and roof, okay? And I would love to spend the money on a new kitchen, but I think more in a responsible way of the longevity of my house and for the livelihood of me and my family, I think it would be more beneficial for us to have a newer HVAC system. So it's not the best, not the where I want to spend the money, but it's a priority. And knowing what you value and what's more important to you is going to help you when you have to spend the money. So for me, I value our health more than I value pretty pictures of my home. And so for me to have to spend money on updating our HVAC system and the ductwork is going to mean more to me than updating our kitchen that might just have to wait a little longer before we get to do that. Also, I'm indecisive, so I need to make decisions for our kitchen. I'm really not indecisive. It's just with certain things like my kitchen and what I want to do in this house, I get indecisive. So I feel you on a homeowner side when you're trying to make decisions on what you want for your renovations, guys. I do. I'm also a homeowner. I get it. These are big decisions and you want to make sure you're doing it right. So I'll just take my own advice and think about how I move and function in it. But back to spending the money on the things that are pretty versus the things that are important. You really just need to put it into perspective. Like, is it worth it? Is it worth it to update your whole kitchen to find out your pipes are going to burst in a few days because you have old piping? I don't think so. I think it's worth updating all your pipes while you're in that big renovation anyway, and just spend the money up front and do it then. It's a hard hit, but in the long run, what's worse? I mean, you want to have that longevity of your home. You want to feel good and secure in your home. This is one way to do that. Really focusing on what's important to you in your home is always going to be my message. And that's going to be maintained throughout your design and how you want your home renovation to go. And it also means how you want your longevity of your home to go. So always knowing and putting in perspective what's important to you will always help you stay aligned in what you need to do for your home. So yeah, spending money on the unpretty stuff like updating your electrical and updating your piping and your HVAC or your roof is not pretty. But I also have a feeling that these are things that are important to you to have a healthy living home for you and your family, right? I have a feeling that that's more valuable to you than just having a pretty kitchen that functions a little bit better than what you're used to, right? We can live with older things. We can make it work. We can live like that. But if we're putting our health at risk because we don't want to spend money on the behind the wall stuff, then I think it's a good time to start reframing our mindset around it. And let's even celebrate the things that we're doing there. Like, wow, I'm really looking out for my family here by doing X, Y, Z. Or, I'm going to have this maintenance plan and have someone come check my house quarterly or biannually. And I'm going to make sure that everything is moving as it's supposed to. I'm going to make sure that my house is the most efficient. I'm going to make sure that my pipes are working as they need to, my electrical, nothing's shorting out, that we are safe in our home, right? So these are things that can help prevent disasters and help prevent big damages that you were unplanned. So fixing it up ahead means limiting any kind of big crazy stuff later on in your home. So just shifting that mindset and really focusing on what it is that you're doing and really focusing on what's important and what you value is going to go a long way when you're thinking about how you're spending your money in your home. So I'm going to invite you to look through your home and just really see where you might be able to start getting some ideas and maybe calling in some maintenance people to find out if your home is running more efficient. Maybe take a look at when your house is built and see when any plumbing or electrical has been updated. Maybe check your roof age. You also, for here in Charleston, we have termites we have to watch out for. So I know we're not the only people around here that need to worry about termites and other kind of bugs, I'm sure. So these are all things you want to look into. So I invite you to go and do your research for your area, find out what are the heavy hitters in your space and how you can start maintaining your home today to avoid big disasters later on. That's all I got for you today. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for hanging out today. If you liked what you heard, please make sure you hit subscribe, and I hope to see you again next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.